Cheeky boys, cartoons and fat guys, they're back. The Graz Room wrote your worst nightmares. Stutters, stalls, racist accents, off models. You can't be sure what's out there in the darkness of the 1990s.
'Cause we're the Darkstalkers.
Steve, messed up cartoon enthusiast, needs to share with his knowledge, even if he has to wake up the Generation Xers. He summons Andre, the curmudgeonly arcade enthusiast, to do a recap of all 13 episodes of this crap, and possibly bleeding his brain in the process.
'Cause we're the Darkstalkers.
But it could be worse. We could have done this about Street Fighter, or even Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm. The thought is enough to make your blood run cold.
Hello, party people. It's your boy Dre. We watched a thing, and I always watch a thing with Steve.
Yeah, we should. That's usually how this goes. This time it was my fault, and oh boy.
Yeah, you always like to assign blame if we watch something bad for whose fault it is. Notice neither of us assign blame for Parasite Dolls. I feel like we were both at fault for that one. But
no, this was purely me going on to the SF Toons account on Twitter, which is no longer posting, and remembering that I think they posted something about this once, and then forgetting whether they actually posted about this cartoon or not. I phased it out of my memory. It was either that bad, or it was so bad that they didn't bother either. But either way.
It's funny. I was going to ask you that because I wondered how you heard about this, because I hadn't heard about this at the time. And, you know, I loved Darkstalkers, and I watched every crappy, video game cartoon or whatever that was out there, whether they were good or not, because, I love video games. I want to see them on TV. I don't ever remember this existing, even though I was hella into Darkstalkers. So I was wondering how you had heard of it. Now I know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone really had a shot of hearing about this because this aired in syndication for 13 episodes, and that's a death sentence right there. Unless you're Star Trek.
Yeah, basically fall 95. I think September to December 95. And by 96 rolled around, our New Year's resolution, we are not airing this show anymore. I'm sure Graz Entertainment said at their New York high-rise. Graz Entertainment, Steve.
Yeah, Graz Entertainment and not Deke, which I definitely thought this was when I proposed this.
No. You gotta do the voice.
Deke.
Please tell me you were the type of kid also to think that was like the funniest thing you'd ever heard on TV. Dick.
Man, I didn't even have context for why that would be funny, and I thought that was the funniest sounding shit.
Oh my god, yeah. Every kid in our relative age group. But yeah, Graz Entertainment it is, not Deke.
Yeah, everyone, well, even when you're looking it up on other forums when I'm trying to do research on this, you'll see a lot of the era fan sites say, well, it's the Deke cartoon. No, it's not. It's Graz. And who the fuck is Graz? For what they still exist. Like,
really?
You think they'd be under by now, but they exist in the same way that Treasure or Sunsoft still exist, in that they have a building and that they technically never shuttered, but who knows what the hell they're producing right now, if anything.
I feel like City Connection has been puppeteering Sunsoft's body for quite a many years now.
Yeah, it's possible. And they tend to hold on to most of their catalog. Like, I figured, okay, they got Darkstalkers, so maybe they got some other edgier fare, and they do, like, they got Skeleton Warriors.
I watched Skeleton Warriors. When I was looking at them too, I was like, oh shit, I remember this show. But now after I watched Darkstalkers, I'm like, oh, that's probably just as crappy as like anything else. But of course, I was like, I don't know how old I was, but I was definitely the right age for Skeleton Warriors, probably like 11. That sounds like a show an 11-year-old would love, right?
But they've also got Corduroy. Remember Corduroy, the bear with teddy bear with overalls. They made a cartoon of that for 2 seasons.
I do now. Shit, I would have never thought about that again.
And they apparently had a hand in the 90s X-Men cartoon. I think they have a piece of that.
That show was not good. I know it was good for the time, but this is unwatchable today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. But also relevant to what we're talking about, they also worked on the Street Fighter cartoon, which we also misattribute to Deke all the time.
See, I knew that show wasn't Deke. I knew that, but I didn't see a whole lot of the Street Fighter one. But anyway, why Darkstalkers? Why did they pick this up? So middlingly popular at the arcade. I loved it, but I was an arcade head. Of course I did. I don't understand why they thought, oh man, that thing that's not that popular, we're just going to make a cartoon?
Oh, well, this came out in 95, and didn't Darkstalkers too? So I think
Darkstalkers came out in 94-ish, so I think the second one was out by then, Night Warriors. But like
here too?
Yeah, here. But there hasn't even been any home ports, I don't think, yet. I don't think PlayStation and Saturn and stuff. Well, PlayStation had barely just come out. And Saturn, maybe there's a Darkstalkers port already. Anyway, I just don't think a lot of people cared. So it's weird that they did this.
Maybe they got it cheap, or maybe they looked at maybe they got it on discount after they got Street Fighter, or maybe they looked at Ruby Spears' Mega Man, which also wasn't particularly great, but was performing better, even though that was in syndication.
I felt like that was at least competent. It felt like a Mega Man cartoon.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Mega Man is much better at being a Mega Man cartoon than anything Darkstalkers was doing.
Or anything Street Fighter was doing, for that matter, but whatever.
Oh, Street Fighter at least had Sonic Booms at least once an episode.
Yeah, they did the moves from the game, something Darkstalkers could not manage, but whatever, we'll get to that. I guess maybe this was just a time of licensed property optimism. They pushed Bucky O'Hare on us really hard in the early 90s, right? I don't know if you remember that.
They sure fucking did.
Yeah, and who the fuck is Bucky O'Hare and why do we care? I mean, there was even a Konami game for it, just like Turtles. They really thought that was going to be a thing, right? I liked Bucky O'Hare just fine, but
Yeah, remember Cowboys of Moo Mesa?
I sure do. I actually like that one. I remember the go-to ripoff for everybody is Street Sharks, but I never really watched that one. I did watch Cowboys of Moo Mesa. Wasn't great, but it was entertainment for the time. But maybe they just thought Darkstalkers would be the next big thing and Graz was banking on that. And I mean, it wasn't unpopular. And, honestly, it does have a lot of spoopy characters that we recognize. Here's a werewolf. Here's a mummy. Here, I guess you'd have to learn what a succubus is, but
and maybe you wouldn't put that in a show for children, but
And even though the game itself is probably not appropriate for young kids, I mean, it is all fighting games tend to get rated teen by default, but Darkstalkers is pushing that, so it's something. So I want to read, I found this blurb online. I forget where, I think maybe on a wiki, but the Capcom's director of marketing at the time, director of licensing rather, talked about the cartoon, and she said, I'm just going to read it verbatim and we can laugh. With an enormous built-in audience of young arcade players across the nation and a colorful range of fun but spooky characters who lend themselves so well to animated television, she's right about that, we're confident that Darkstalkers will be a big hit with kids everywhere. The show will make it hip to be scared. It's this decade's answer to the popular Ghostbusters sensation of the 80s. What, lady? Look, you got to sell your shit. I know it. Okay, fine. That's literally your job. But come on.
And I agree. The Darkstalkers cast is very, if you were going to adopt something to TV, yeah, why not the Darkstalkers? But this wasn't it.
No. I mean, and the thing is, I didn't see the Ghostbusters movie till way later in life because, 84 is 2 years old. It's not like I would even remember that anyway. I remember the cartoon, though. Tell you that much. That's how I got introduced to Ghostbusters, was the cartoon.
And the cartoon was good.
Yeah. See, I don't remember much of it. I just remember Slimer having weird voice. I don't know. Literally I remember
the cartoon
Slimer.
was good and as a Ghostbusters vehicle, as opposed to what we're using as a Darkstalkers vehicle.
Okay, before we get into it, because we've been stalling too long, what's your favorite Darkstalker? Who's your favorite Darkstalker, rather?
I haven't played these games very much. If we ever got a cabinet, it'd be fairly further away. And I couldn't even tell you which one it was because of the weird naming system we got here. It was never just Darkstalkers and Darkstalkers 2.
Yep.
It was like all over the fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember a bunch in crossovers and things in Project X Zone, and Raptor stands out to me in that way. He stood out as the zombie with spikes jutting out and usually a guitar, and I don't know. And in terms of character design, he just Raptor's it for me.
Raptor's a good one. I've always been a John Talbane guy. Like the very first person I picked when I played Darkstalkers was Anakaris, who is the hardest character to use in the game. It is tough. It's like pissing. It's like picking Dulcim as your first time playing Street.
Oh no.
Yes, it's so like you could get used to it, and I did. And guess what? I did pick Dulcim the first time I played Street Fighter.
Of course you did.
yeah. I have to pick the most like hardest, difficult thing to get a grasp of. And anyway, but after that, I tried Sasquatch. I liked him, and then I settled on John Talbane, and that was kind of my main, if you will. I can't beat a werewolf doing a flash kick, right? I mean, that's always fun.
Yeah, I'm just not well versed enough in other than it's similar-ish to Street Fighter because, it's got to be around that time. I still need to pick up that fighting collection.
I can't. I thought you had already. I didn't know you didn't. Honestly.
Oh, I still need to.
Well, if you want to do research for a podcast. Oh shit, we're doing the podcast already.
Somehow I don't think this was going to help me with this cartoon though.
It sure fucking won't.
Because if we start with just the intro of the show.
Oh boy, go ahead.
Well, you might have heard already, but we get the shortest possible riff of that Dracula Bach chord. You know the one. Followed by supernatural things, magic and sorcery. They're back.
Where did they go?
Yeah, I didn't realize they left. There was this said by this introman with the enthusiasm of a marketer stuck with having to sell a ball in a cup this Christmas. And, and it really feels like this failed marketing pitch that they're doing in the boardroom because you got a 90s rocker dude who, it might be this other guy's younger brother who has a band just popping in every every paragraph or so going, we're the dark stalkers.
It's so bad, Steve. It's literally something I would make up as a joke song on the spot. Like, oh, what if they did a Darkstalkers cartoon? What would it be? We're the Darkstalkers, y'all, or something. Like I would just make up some stupid shit. Like that's literally what he did. We're the Darkstalkers. That's all. Like, get out of here. Like, come on. Like I said, joke song for a fake show. I wish this show was fake. And, though I do want to say one thing, and this is going to be whenever we talk about animation, we do get a little old man around here, and this is going to be mine. We watched this on YouTube because it was the only way we could find it, and they kept all the interstitial like commercial stuff. Well, Darkstalkers will return after this, and then like the other one, and now back to Darkstalkers. Those little clips of animation. I miss that shit. I miss the rhythm and language of broadcast TV in that way. Call me an old man. I honest Steve, I do.
I'm with you because you know what? As shitty as this was, seeing those interstitial ad cards was cozy as fuck. It really was.
It really did. It warmed my blackened heart while watching this show that was numbing my brain. I love those every time. I never skipped them. I don't know. There's a reason why we did it that way on TV for decades, but I digress. I guess we have an actual ending song, speaking of music, but it's like stale 80s butt rock, kind of just like the intro. And it's like, I don't know, in the era of grunge, like it was 1995. Why was this kind of music so prevalent deep into the 90s? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Because the intro guy's younger brother had a band and they really needed a gig. Although I'm really impressed because I would think with this guy's particular recording, because I know for a fact most affiliates out here would have just slid that shit to the side so they could start in with the news right away. And to be fair, I am sure that breaking news of everyone getting infected by the world's largest rutabaga would have been way more interesting than this cartoon.
Don't tell everyone the plot of Last of Us Part 3. Jeez.
All right, we have that shit sitting in storage. Oops.
So like I guess they have to bring the Darkstalkers together in the first episode somehow, right? They can't just be doing whatever. But I didn't expect them to do it with a Galaga tractor beam. Steve, like,
yeah, Pyron, who's the villain of the first game, I guess, is just shows up in his spaceship with an effeminate AI, and he's like using the Galaga tractor beam to recruit Dimitri, who he then tasks with getting the rest of the Darkstalkers, which he's really just doing himself anyway because he's using the UFO tractor beam, and the only way that differentiates the good guys from the bad guys is whether you got caught in the tractor beam or not.
Yeah, like, I mean, just insane. Yeah, because like if they don't want to be caught in the tractor beam, they won't by some measure or another.
And then they just give up on them. They're like, "Oh, I guess he's not going to be a Darkstalker." And
do you remember that part where they're trying to catch Felicia? She's like walking down the back alley after her job. By the way, she works at a building that says New York on it. That's how you know she's in New York. It just says New York. It's like she couldn't have even done the thing where she's on the Broadway version of Cats or something, like, you know what I mean? Like they didn't even do the obvious. Like
it was right there.
Yeah, it was right there. But I love where she's walking. The tractor beam is making this really loud sound behind her and it's closing in. And right when it's like inches from her, the tractor beam stops. She turns around and faces it. She's like, I don't like the look of that. And then just runs away. It's like they could have just caught the plot needed to happen, so she couldn't be caught by it, even though she easily could have been. It's just so the amount of plot convenience, guys, in this. We can't even begin to scratch the surface.
And speaking of the plot, like other cartoons of the time, like Pole Position and Street Fighter, they do clumsily name the group after the title of the show. So we do eventually have a team of Darkstalkers. Is this finally where they get this right? Or no, Audrey?
No, they're not referred to. Maybe like the opening text scroll or whatever, but they're not in the arcade game may say something like that if there is one, but like I don't think there is one. They are just Darkstalkers. They're not like, it's just a funny moniker for the game. I mean, I guess maybe this may shed some light on it. In Japan, the series is known as Vampire, not Darkstalkers. So I guess it's just kind of centered around Dimitri I don't know, whatever, right? But I don't know. It's just a catch-all thing. It just sounded, I don't even know where they would get that name from, but no, they are not collectively the Darkstalkers, a group.
Although I gotta say, I haven't seen all the episodes of Street Fighter. It is a bit funnier there when you have Guile breaking in and saying, "We're the Street Fighters."
There's no way. Do they actually do that? No way. You gotta be fucking with me. There's no way that's true. There's no way. You are making shit up right now.
No, I can't be. I'm pretty sure that was. I'll have to look this up later.
There's no way that's fucking true. Wow, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard. You know, speaking of Pyron, as he's like the main bad guy here, I never really thought of him as much of a boss. He's just kind of like one of the more like forgettable Capcom guys. He's definitely not M. Bison. He's not like Gil from Street Fighter 3, like someone like really memorable like that. I mean, you could go to SNK bosses if you want, like Rugal, Orochi, whoever, right? Like he's Pyron is just whoever, man.
He's like a hall foil magic card of like a devil.
I would have liked the show a lot more if Rugal were the or the eye in the sky, not Pyron.
Mm.
But yeah, I like that. He's just your typical 80s and 90s cartoon villain, like pontificating, oh, I am the ruler, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I don't know, that typical villain voice. Like ever since Skeletor, I think like every cartoon is like, oh, that is the villain voice. So everything seemed to take after Skeletor for the next 15 years.
Yeah, well, Pyron's actor was clearly doing this in between Shakespeare at the Park gigs to supplement his income. Oh, well, we'll be invading the Earth now and getting the rest of the Darkstalkers before dinner time, yes.
I would have enjoyed that take on it much more. Oh my god! But like nobody can be Skeletor. Skeletor is so one of a kind. I don't even know that voice actor's name. I'm sorry, I don't. But like, man, you know. But everyone tried to copy it. It's just funny that influence well into the 90s was still there. Can we talk about the voices at large because they kind of sucked, but they were like mostly funny, sucky.
Before going in, I've even though I'm not especially familiar, I know who Dimitri is, and I knew, and I saw, and I'm like, the look. I saw the stills of the cartoon, and I'm like, this guy is gonna just slip in and out of Bad Bela Lugosi, and I was not wrong.
He did exactly that, like exactly that. Morrigan, like, can we? Does she know what accent she is? Does she know where she's from in Europe? Because I don't think she does.
She's supposed to be Scottish because she keeps talking about Moors and things, but but she keeps slipping into a Canadian accent too.
Oh, you know, I heard a little bit of Canadian. I thought Felicia sounded a bit Canadian when she said something. Maybe this was voiced in Canada. That happened sometimes back then, and I guess still now. It may have been.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of that, especially in this time.
You remember the lady from Bubblegum Crisis? I forget what episode it is, but she kept slipping in and out of her Irish accent. You remember? That's kind of what it reminded me of. But Morrigan was... Morrigan is 10 times worse than that. Okay, the Asian voices. I'm sorry to just kind of go here right now, but Steve, Jesus Christ. Like...
They're the same actress as Morrigan, shared with... Shenko? Am I saying that right?
Sinko is, yeah, that's close enough.
Sinko. Yeah, and it is the worst lady at your local takeout impression that the 90s has to offer.
Yeah, and
as done by a white lady, and it just makes you feel all sorts of uncomfortable in the current context.
Remember the part where Sinko, I think it's episode 8 or 9, where she's flying over the swamp and then she's singing, shall we say? I'm not going to do an impression of it right now because I'll get canceled, but yo, dude, that was...
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man. But like, as bad as Sinko is, Bishamon is way worse. Like, that was shocking, right? Because he only talks for like 2 seconds in the first episode, but I'm sure you had the same thought I did. You're like, oh, no.
Yeah. And then they don't use them for a number of episodes, and then they do again, and it's like, oh no.
That happens a lot in this. But like, it also, look, I'm studying Japanese. Sorry, I'm going to be that guy. But it really bugged me that the voice actors kept saying Bishamin. It's Bishamon. It's not Bishamin. I mean, come on, man.
I have to cut them some slack here because back then no one knew how to pronounce any of this. And I'm sure no one on high at Capcom sent the phonetic reading to go along. All around the 90s, we all said Ryu forever.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm not too proud, and no one was around to correct us, and I am not too proud. I can admit this. Even the toy ads for Street Fighter said, Ryu and Ken are kicking butts, or whatever it was. Like, we just kept saying that until more care was taken into localization.
When I was a kid, it was Legend of Cage. It certainly wasn't Legend of Kage, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea. I was a child, you know, so...
that's like the one part where I'm willing to, like, you know what, you tried. You worked with what you had.
John Talbane, though, man, like, who's worse, his English accent or Morrigan's Scottish? Like, they're both really bad. Like, John Talbane's English accent is worse than Keanu Reeves in Dracula 92. It's worse.
Uh, man, I feel like he can hide under his grumbling a bit better than Morgan can. But
You mean Morgan, as he keeps calling her? Morgan, and not Morgan?
see, that's another thing. I feel like a bunch of characters like slurred into Morgan in the heat of the action, and I put action in the most generous quotes I can give it.
Just awful stuff. These episodes just have so, like I said earlier, the plot convenience around these parts are just insane. Remember the part where they're flying to, I don't know where, they're on a plane and Harry has a laptop. Oh, by the way, that's our like human protagonist, I guess, Harry.
Yes, Harry, he's a wizard. No relation to any other Harrys that are wizards that we might know about.
Harry, the wizard. Okay, it's 95, but
no,
funny coincidence.
I know, but we needed to stamp that out.
We gotta. The part where he's on the plane and he's tinkering around with this giant laptop, and he's like, "I found a CD-ROM of all the." What was he talking about? He was trying to find some artifact, and it's like it's in the CD-ROM.
He was looking for his ancestor Merlin's ring. It was like,
do you like how like in the first episode, two different people explained to two different Darkstalkers that they're talking about their great ancestor and not them, but it happened back to back. They didn't even space them out.
Can we also just talk how uncomfortable it was to just have that dynamic duo of older lady versus younger boy and those were our protagonists for 13 episodes.
We didn't think about that shit at all back then. We didn't bat an eyelash. Now we would, but I
mean ACAB, but maybe an adult.
Yeah.
Maybe someone tell an adult what's going on. I'm going on club trotting adventures with a half-dressed cat lady. See ya.
Yeah, see ya. Oh, do you like how whenever she was like trying to look like a human, she dressed up like Carmen Sandiego, basically, for some reason? I don't know why. It's like, this is what she looked like, right? I'm not the only one who thought that.
And the tail poked out half the time anyway. So what was the point of that exercise?
Yeah. Also, in more technology stuff, in episode 9, remember like Harry is searching for something on news groups? On the internet? It's like, oh man, that is 1995 as fuck. Like,
well, there's
shit.
Lots of news groups about ancient Egyptian bullshit.
Can you talk to me? Okay, you need to explain something to me. I feel like I do this every episode where I ask you to explain something to me. You need to explain to me that spherical computer that's on Pyron's spaceship. I don't even know why he has a spaceship. We don't even have to get into that. But like, what is with that computer thing? Did they ever actually explain this? Because I don't think they did.
Not really. I think all it's really doing is serving the same purpose Harry does, but on the Darkstalkers side, acting as the grounded witness that addresses things that we'd find weird. But I mean, really, there needed to be a better way than both of these OC do not steals, like saying have the Darkstalker stuff happen, for lack of a better term, and then have an April O'Neil type pop up on the news and try to have that relate to how might be relating to the normies. And they do try this because Harry's mom is a reporter, but she's not especially great at her job. Like they do go to Egypt, and that's there in there, but when they're done at the end of the episode, they're like, there's sand in the pyramid.
I didn't even remember her. She's like not even in the show after that episode.
No, she's not.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, I forgot about her completely. He's as Steve said, Harry's a descendant of Merlin,
who I'm pretty sure is not in Darkstalkers. I don't remember any.
No, Merlin is not there. Neither is Master Yen Sid.
I don't remember any Harry Merlins.
Harry Merlins.
Harry Merlins.
But the ring, though.
Oh god, that ring can just do whatever the fuck it wants. They pulled that shit right in the episode. They awaken Merlin from the ring somehow, and then they pull the most 90s ass, The ring itself doesn't have power. The power is within you the whole time. And I guess that becomes an excuse to just let whatever the ring needs, whatever the fuck it needs to do for whatever it's doing.
It's so stupid. We'll get to that in a second, actually. We will talk about that stupid ring and other plot convenient stupid shit. But we need to talk about the source material real quick, because I feel like if even the crappiest cartoons, you have to get that stuff right, because that's like the whole point. But first, I want to start with, obviously, if anyone out there has played Darkstalkers, you know what Morgan Felicia looked like. Okay, enough said. This cartoon had some cleaning up to do, Steve.
Yeah, the two, well, Morgan more than Felicia was definitely more age appropriate. Like, I'm sitting here going, well, there's no way we're going to see Morgan do succubus stuff because this is a kid's cartoon. Not that she really does do that in Darkstalkers, does she?
She does, but like they also let the Beatree suck that one lady's blood. She did die. I mean, you didn't really see it, but you remember that? Yeah, he did break into that house, and you remember the munching sounds, like, yeah. It's like, okay.
I mean, I thought it was weird that I thought it was weird that they started the second episode with, succubus stuff. Yeah. Before Donovan shows up and cockblocks her.
Donovan is so stupid in this. Oh my God.
Oh, and then, later on in said episode, you got Morgan and Felicia duking it out in the British Museum. And let's be real. If this were an anime or even a more talented animation studio, this would have been a sexual awakening that would have been brought up on Twitter to this day, at least once a week, nonstop, because of course it would have been.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Darkstalkers came out in the arcade when I was 12 years old, Steve.
Yeah, that's a good time.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just saying, right? You get the point.
Sounds about right.
So Morgan, Felicia fighting in the actual game? I tell you what, I was certainly awakened. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. But if I had seen this in the cartoon first, this lame ass fight in this lame ass cartoon probably would have just maybe changed the channel. I wouldn't have been awakened to shit, except of how bored I was. Like, no thanks. I'm gonna name my absolute number one problem with this cartoon. We've been doing a lot of bitching. The cartoon's bad, but one of the best things about adapting a fighting game into a cartoon is that all the combat is decided for you, because that's what the entire game is about. And you have all sorts of special moves. You don't have to make up any as a creator of a cartoon. You have to make up the stuff around it, but all that stuff is decided. Darkstalkers, this cartoon, throws everything away for really, really lame shit. So you remember the first episode when Dimitri is first shown and the tractor beam is on him and he rises out to like some New Jack Swing beat, and Pyron says he must serve him. And then Dimitri proceeds to try to zap him with like lasers that come out of his hands. That's not a move in the game. What is that?
That's not even a Dracula thing. You remember any Dracula where it's like, where he's like monocing the hands of fate, the guys to death?
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, come on. Like, let's suppose I was watching this as a kid for the first time, and I didn't watch it back then, but let's suppose I did, and I saw those laser hands, I would have been pissed. I would have been like, this sucks. This is so lame. Yes, that famous move from the video game, Dimitri's laser hands. Like, and look, I watched other, especially anime OAVs. I had the Toshinden OAV. The Samurai Showdown OAV was the very first anime I ever bought and watched myself. Like, and those weren't very good, but at least they did the moves from the game. You don't get any of that from Darkstalkers. The one thing, imagine if the Street Fighter cartoon didn't have a Hadouken or a Sonic Boom or something. Like, that would be so crappy.
As I alluded earlier, even the Street Fighter cartoon produced by this studio tossed off a Sonic Boom at least once an episode.
At least. Like, come on, man. But it took till episode 5 for a move from the game to actually be shown. It was Anakaris doing his, remember he did the snake hands to wrap, you know what I mean? To wrap up somebody, like shot at. That was like the first time I was like, holy shit. He actually did something for the game. And then he did like the pyramid kick where his feet turn into a pointy pyramid and he tries to kick you. Like that's also from the game. I was like, oh wow, they finally did it. Jesus Christ. Although, do you remember when John Talbane was fighting Morrigan and he teleported like Dulcin? How did he do that? He can't teleport, man.
I was going to say, I don't remember that. And given all his I'm better than you as a human shtick, I don't think he should be able to do that.
Yeah, it's just like Morrigan has a Kamehameha for some reason, and like Donovan has like ground lightning. All of it's stupid. You guys get the point, but it's like, it sucks. Steve, you want to talk about episode 3? I promise we're not going to talk, audience, we're not going to talk about every episode, I promise. But we're going to talk about episode 3 in particular, like a little bit, because it was like the most clusterfucky thing.
You told me if I got up to take a piss, I would miss too much.
Yep.
Those were your words. And so I made sure to have all my business taken care of before watching episode 3 in particular. I sat down and watched all of that, and I still barely understood it.
It was incomprehensible. Remember when 4Kids got a hold of One Piece and they did really wild things with it, besides the censorship stuff? Like, they edited several episodes into one, sometimes up to like 7 episodes into one American episode.
American episode.
Yeah, so it made like, because our measurements of episodes are different, Steve. Remember, we have our metric system. An episode is only so long versus metric episodes. But like just 1,400 plot points shoved into one episode. It was just so incomprehensible and stupid. It's just the epitome of like stuff happening.
Even Deke would have looked at this and been like, you know what? This is a 2-part episode, and would have cut this in half.
Yeah, like, come on. Didn't Deke do pole position, right?
They definitely did pole position.
Okay, yeah. See, those were all right. I mean, that wasn't a great cartoon, but it was at least like entertaining
it's better than
enough.
This.
Yeah, compared to this, like,
and that had a banging theme song.
Oh man, but I thought it was weird, I guess, or also you thought it was weird how they sort of separated at some point into, like, I guess the guys on the ship are the good guy or bad guys, and then the good guys are on Earth.
No, yeah, one day they just decided, well, I guess we want to work for Pyron after all, and everyone's just okay with it. And then, although there's just other bickering with the computer and Pyron itself, and then the computer suggests, if you want to, we can just go home. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, if only.
Your credits roll like 7 minutes into the episode.
I mean, and then everyone on the good side also starts to get along too, even though they only started meeting like just now.
Yeah, it was weird. And even sometimes they didn't, because Donovan just wants to kill everybody and Senko wants to just kill everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. So, okay, you're an animation guy. You love animation. You have a passion for it. Please talk about how crappy Darkstalkers is. Even considering the time period, considering the budget, considering that it's TV animation. It's bad, right?
Yeah, even if the art style was this bad, we could have dealt with much better looking. A lot of the fight scenes could be explained by laser hands being struck by said laser hands, temporary pain struck, and then having the said character dragged off screen by like the drag tool from Photoshop, and then like going, oh, to once, over being in pain. And it's like very jarring. It's like a parody of a Darkstalkers cartoon.
I feel like they kind of blew the budget on the first episode, because I remember you saying this and I was thinking to myself, the animation really isn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of thinking at first, but it gets worse as the other episodes go on. I think they were trying to make a good first impression. Not that the first episode is animated particularly like splendidly, but it was better than what came after that.
I mean, I don't like look at Morgan's face. It's like there were some weird things it did.
Look, honestly, I could have gotten over like the lesser art if the animation was actually good. Like that tended to happen in American cartoons. You're gonna get what you're gonna get sometimes within the art department. It's not gonna look like an anime, and it's not gonna look like the game. In whether it's Mega Man, Street Fighter, anything else we said. Okay, we can at least I can accept that. I won't speak for you. I can accept that. But if the animation is gonna be that terrible, such a stilted, jittery mess, like of frames that coalesce into nothing cool happens, every fight sucks. Like, okay, I know you haven't played the game that much, but Sasquatch looks completely wrong. That looks
I know
terrible. Yeah. But like Riku and Lord Raptor and even like Bishamon like look pretty spot on. Like the animation still sucks, but the art looks okay.
I feel like Raptor translated the best over in this style.
Yeah, I would say so as well.
Even with his music puns. Did you enjoy how he needed to keep doing that? Like,
oh my God. I'm so distraught even thinking about it. It was so fucking annoying and so stupid. Yeah, Raptor every second just like hitting with those, like, he gets knocked into the air and it's like, I guess you're not the one for me, or like, saying a song title as he flies off and gets star KO'd or something. Like every second he's cramming them in. Every breath you take, honey, or something like, I don't know. Like they're just so bad. But speaking of bad, probably the worst episodes of this cartoon, Steve. I'm gonna give you the floor, but it involves the son of Sasquatch, shall we say.
Oh yes, because two annoying OCs do not steal weren't enough. We get a third in Sasquatch Jr., whose name is Hairball because of course he is. And despite most of the characters being lone wolves, some more literal than others, Yeti or Bigfoot or Sasquatch, depending on what the episode is.
He's Sasquatch in the games. I don't know why they kept calling him Bigfoot.
I know, but they changed it on depending on the episode. I feel like they finally settled on Yeti towards the end, but
yeah.
But he's actually revealed from the start to actually be the leader of a tribe of them, and I feel like that actually gives him some sort of character as opposed to some of these other guys. But then here we get Sasquatch Jr., Hairball. And without ever seeing him, you know what this character is. Overly exuberant, very annoying, and incredibly oblivious to the detriment of himself and others, and often saved from certain doom by happy plot convenience that masquerade as jokes. And in his first appearance, some of the antics he gets into in these first 20 minutes include a very bootleg New York Yankee hat as a disguise. Fighting lessons. Yeah, it is funny. Fighting lessons from the Scrappy Doo Dojo. He's never been on a roller coaster, watched TV, or played video games, but he loves all of those things. Space Invaders is his favorite.
Space Invaders.
They couldn't even say like Ghost and Goblins is my favorite.
Yeah, they couldn't even do a Capcom game. They had to go to tight. It's like, come on, guys. You want to do a deep cut? I love 1942, right? Like, or something like.
And then towards the end, he's just causing war crimes with the spaceship that he gets captured on.
It was the voice for me though, Steve. Like all these antics are stupid and it was annoying. It was that voice. He wouldn't shut the fuck up.
You don't need to have seen this cartoon to know what the voice sounds like because all of these cartoons had this character. It's all very cynical. Like someone on high said, well, we need to make one toyetic character out of these Darkstalkers, even though there's all these monsters that could have just as easily been toys. They even ship him in a box to Harry's house. That's how they introduced this character. And it's just very insane. Weird. And it's very weird because Street Fighter and Mega Man both fairly effortlessly enjoyed toy lines here. And then, I don't know, I feel like a line of Darkstalkers could have worked here, and despite this attempt, they didn't ever get to take that off the ground. It's just sad.
I mean, it could have been cool. Honestly, they could have been like, I mean, that's because like we said at the beginning, it is marketable. Everyone knows what a werewolf is, a vampire, a succubus, they'll learn, right? A cat lady, right?
And then later on in episode 11, he makes friends with his civilized wasp dragon friend. Oh, yes, I've been frozen in this ice block for thousands of years, and yes, I do like tea.
I like how they pulled the fucking convenience of only one who is pure of heart can convince the dragon to whatever, right? Like, it's just like, shut up. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, just awful. It took me halfway through this to realize that Pyron is basically Thanos, like crappy Thanos in this.
He is crappy Thanos.
Yeah. Do you remember the part where like Dimitri and Morgan are randomly fighting on the ship? They do a lot of fighting. By the way, there's a lot of sexual tension there. Did you notice? Dimitri and Morgan are kind of like,
as much sexual tension as they could possibly do on this show.
Yeah. And so they're fighting, and then all of a sudden Morgan's like, perhaps you'd like some jelly. And she shoots jelly at him somehow. I don't know how she has a jelly shooting power. And then it bounces off of Dimitri and onto like one of Pyron's screens, and the screen shorts out. So was like the jelly made of sulfuric acid? What the fuck was that?
Some kind of weird jelly.
If I take a butter knife and I don't know, maybe my monitor would crap out. What do I know? Maybe if the correct jelly would do that.
Was that the same episode where they had to do where they had to play the game?
Yes, I believe so.
And then Anna Karis, who is some kind of brain damaged or something,
God.
It was set to judge because pharaohs had great wisdom or something.
Just awful.
It's so sad too. They like got him in a cage, and he's like trying to keep score. 1, 2, Dimitri. 1, 2, Morrigan. and he's just repeating this back and forth for minutes.
And like the kid, Harry keeps trying to mess him up because he's counting, and he goes 7. Yeah. It's like 1, 2, 5, 7. I don't know. It's just like, oh my God, you're picking an old man who has no faculties. What the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. Okay. We got to talk about episode 8, because that was like the John Talbane episode, and it was wild. So like, he sees this farmer's sheep, right? And he's about to munch on one. He's like, no, I shouldn't do that. Then he sees the farmer's dinner that the farmer set outside real quick while he went out back inside to get something. So John Talbane takes his dinner and he's chowing down on it, right? And all of a sudden there's a cookie on the plate. He picks up the cookie, and all of a sudden he has a flashback to being a kid and looking through the window of this bakery and looking at these cookies. And all of a sudden some commotion happens behind him. Maybe it was like a bomb or something, and people are running down the street scared and running away. And then he runs away from the bakery, and then the bakery explodes too. And then they cut back to present day of John Talbane crying, recounting all this. Steve, what the fuck was that? Was that supposed to be like World War I in England or something? I don't know what they were trying to do there.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going after, because later on, Morgan's like trying to take Harry to open the way to the sorcerer town village to unlock latent powers hidden there. And John and Felicia are chasing the two of them. And you know, there's like a lake above. We've seen this trope in games and things before. And when they get through the water part, it just kind of squirts him through out of its butthole. The lake's like they don't splash through. It just like poops him out.
It's really weird. Oh man, it's so strange. Also, in that episode at the end, yeah, I know you're not going to forget this. I don't remember the reason why now, though. John Talbane was on the beach or something, washed up somewhere, and he was a human again. And like he sort of presumed dead or whatever, and Felicia just bends down and kisses him on the lips. And well, Harry makes a face. They cut to him real quick, and then he immediately turns back into a werewolf because the clouds part and the full moon shows, because it just has to happen at that moment, of course. But she kissed him awake like a fucking fairy tale. Is that what I missed? Like, kiss the werewolf to wake him up out of his slumber? Like,
I guess.
What sense did that make? Did the writers give a shit at all, Steve? Come on.
Look, I don't really know either, because in the next episode, there's a bunch of performances in an Atlantean cavern that I can't reproduce because, I'll get canceled. But then, not only Bishoman is there, but you got Heutzel too.
Yes.
I think that's supposed to be him. I know what he looks like in the games, but he doesn't look like this in the cartoon.
Yeah.
He sounds like he found all the Cuban cigars. In Futurama, when Bender gets into the robot fighting and he has to fight the foreigner, it's like that, but much worse.
Yeah.
And he wants to sacrifice Pyron to the sun. And then it turns out the computer has like a girl module program. If you rip out certain wires, I'm like, you know what? Sure, why not?
She got a sexy voice all of a sudden. That was weird.
That we never address again.
No, we don't address it at all, because why would we do that? Do you like how episode 5 begins with basically Harvey Weinstein telling this girl that she must jump out of a cake, read between the lines, or he's gonna get in big trouble? Like,
Andre, she was wearing a spark plug costume. I mean,
just incomprehensible. But right after that, Lord Raptor starts to show up, because I guess that's his agent, and starts like whooping his ass for like trying to kill him for not getting any good gigs. And he's like, "You're over the hill, Raptor. No one wants that kind of music anymore," or whatever. Like, oh my God, just stupid.
And we have episode 10. You got Dimitri trying to goad Bishaman into fighting Donovan with his huge and powerful blade, which then glows right after he says it. And then insisting he'll come to us.
It's like, okay, how? That we'll never know.
And then one of my other favorite kinds of things to look for, continuity errors, where in episode 11 with the Wasp Dragon, Raptors tricked the Wasp Dragon into doing his bidding, which includes raising the Yeti village. So in addition to fireballs lazily flying out of his mouth, and, you have you have a tribe of Yetis making a freeze dome over the village. You could see the crack that the dragon makes at the top of the dome before he blasts it open. And then when that's supposed to happen, I'm like, did they leave that there on purpose? But no, he blows the flame and you could see it break apart. And so it's like, come on, guys.
It kind of reminds me of later seasons of the original Turtles ones, as they got like deeper into the 90s, where they stopped caring, where it's like some turtles had the same like bandana color sometimes, like, or the wrong one. Yeah, it was like really strange errors that they would make. But though, going back to episode 10, that was the only interesting bit of lore where they explain how Donovan has that little girl following him around in the games, because they actually address that in this show. I never questioned it in the artwork or win poses or whatever in Darkstalkers, because, anime. I don't know. Maybe it's just his daughter or something. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not much of a Donovan user, but I guess I know why she's there now. I guess that was cool to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought we were in for a clip show this episode, because they take the first 2 minutes of the first episode and just slap it on the first 2 minutes of this one. And then they do an ew girl story beat for Harry when they run into Donovan again. And then they borrow the Bishoman clip again too, where the monk hits the bell and then he wakes up.
Yeah, they reused anime in a 13 episode order. They reused a lot of animation in that episode. Like, come on, guys. Like, I thought I queued up the wrong episode at first, actually.
I don't know.
Okay, there was a smattering of funny lines from this that were stupid, though none will beat that one from Pole Position where it's like, what button do I press? All of them. She goes ape shit on the computer. I love that. I love that part where, like, I don't know, Riku, I forget the situation, but like Riku is like got out of this fight and Harry's like, are you okay? And Riku goes, I am not okay, and immediately collapses. I don't think they meant that to be funny, but it was.
He was. I think Riku was overacting that for a good chunk of all of his scenes.
That actor knew what was up. He was hamming it up.
There was a number of scenes where Raptor's getting his ass kicked, and for the ultimate musical reference, I was the original Sweeney Todd. No, I was the real Sweeney Todd.
It's like, come on, man. You remember the episode where they have to, I don't know, the ship's gonna blow up if Pyron doesn't get back to it or some contrived bullshit. Yeah. And then so the computer enlists the help of the Darkstalkers that are still on the ground, the quote unquote good Darkstalkers. And so Felicia is saying to the computer, what happened? And the computer goes, well, it all started in Act 1. Starts explaining to her. It's like, was that literally in the script? Like, did someone just ad lib that? Come on. Or were they? I don't think they were trying to be meta on purpose.
And that's when we knew we were getting canceled.
Yeah.
But we do get Harry being a 90s cartoon because in that same Butthole Lake scenario, when she kidnaps Harry, he's like in a bed in a cave. He's like, this is a lousy bed and breakfast. At least get me coffee at a Danish. And then she walks in wearing a red nightgown for some reason.
That was just unbelievable. I expect her to see like the again, the Carmen Sandiego get up, but
and then later on in that same episode, he's like she's holding him over a cliff. I've always liked you, Morgan. Can't we part as friends?
It's like, what are you guys writing? This is like worse than the worst sitcom on like TV at that time. Like, Jesus Christ, it should have had a laugh track. Honestly, I like how when Morgan very pointedly just asks Anakaris, like, do you even remember what it was like before you lost your marbles, Anakaris? Like it's like a real question.
But Riku was oddly attractive for a fishman.
So says also Pyron's brother said that to him too. According to like every character said that, and then Pyron is like, "Oh man, I just learned something about Pyron's personal life here."
There's just one other one I want to touch on quick because it's very 90s. Raptor's trying to do an acting gig and he's fucking it up the whole time because ego, and the actress he's starring against is she's just getting fed up. Forget it. I'm starting Terminator 14 on Monday.
I remember that reference. Haha. Yeah, like that was stupid. They always did that. Like, I'm starting Police Academy 9 next month or something. Yeah. Okay. The quote unquote last episode, because I'm sure they didn't know that was their last episode, but just the 13th episode kicks off with like Dimitri and Morrigan on like some sort of like Regis and Kathy Lee type of show. What the hell was that? And they just start fighting and destroy the set, of course. But like,
well, they're flipping through. Pyron is flipping through channels on his spaceship. And because the episode prior to that really could have been a season finale. So then they were doing this other episode, which is really the boss is coming to dinner episode because Pyron's older brother, whatever his name is, that they had to invent, is coming over for a visit, and he needs to see how he's getting along with taking over the Earth. and they need to, and this just entails both sides, good and bad, having to pretend they're getting along to prevent genocide. Because cartoons.
The good old coming to dinner plot. I thought, again, sitcom. Like these guys should have been sitcom writers. They should have just wrote some crappy show on CBS that airs at Wednesday at 9:30 that nobody watches. Like, I feel like it's what they really wanted to do.
And eventually it devolves into a food fight because 90s cartoon. And then they didn't know how to end the episode, so Anakaris falls on Pyron, and we never hear from the cartoon again.
Because I was a little bit ahead of you watching this, I said, you are not going to believe the first word that happens in episode 12. And the first word in episode 12 is Dimitri staring at Dracula and going, "Uncle?" Because of course he is. He can't be any basic bitch vampire. He has to be Dracula's nephew. And we never see him again because Dracula's like, "Oh, a man named Van Helsing is coming for me. You must help me." Blah, blah, blah. And then like, whatever. Like, I don't understand.
Even this read as failed marketing for Darkstalkers because the end of his rant is like, "The time for Dracula is over. Now is the time for Dimitri."
There is, as we mentioned before, there is an insane amount of plot convenience, and a lot of it involving Harry's ring. Remember the thing that doesn't have any power? Well, it does. Like, I think early on, I think it was like episode 4 or 5, where like Harry's ring all of a sudden just starts sticking to a nearby globe. You remember that? And then Felicia's like, I think the ring wants us to go to Africa, so like the plot can move forward. And it's like,
that's some Carmen Sandiego shit right there.
Yeah, she should have just wore that the whole episode, because that was some of the straight up laziest writing I've ever seen. And then like later on, when they're falling out of a crashing airplane, I'm not going to explain why, the ring just manifests them some sort of winged parachute thing for no reason.
No words under.
I just unbelievable. But like also you remember episode 12 where they're driving through the desert, and then like Felicia's like, so what are we looking for? And Harry's like, I don't know, I just sense that we should be here, like something's gonna happen. Okay, guys, I just, come on. Like, you got, again, Saturday morning cartoon in syndication in the 90s. I swear to God, I'm not demanding too much here, but like, come on.
Yeah, this wasn't a ring perk per se, but you know how they resolve shit with that the wasp dragon? It's literally solved with old-fashioned, or really more recent trending anyway. Do you know who my ancestor is?
I went on 23andMe, and I found out... Oh my God. I also, like, they went to Stonehenge for some reason, right? Or some
yeah, they needed to, that's where they got the ring in the first place.
Okay.
And they're stuck there. And this also isn't necessarily the ring per se, but it's okay. They got Dad's credit card. We don't see his dad, but we do see Dad's credit card. It's a white sheet of paper that says Visa on it. It doesn't even it doesn't even say like Visa card or something on, or like American card, or, you know, it just says Visa.
Yeah, just insane. Also, I forgot to mention in episode 12, the car goes over a cliff later, but like, and then they're saved by Harry like unconsciously making a force field for the two of them. They're just on the ground with a force field around them. But they didn't even do like the cliche thing of like, oh, you know, when in danger, your body, you know what I mean? Like something like that. They didn't explain it at all.
I feel like they were very unnecessary in that episode, that whole, the two of them, because what was the point of that? So the showman can find Dimitri, because I feel like that was very unnecessary. They didn't need to be in that episode.
They didn't.
Going back to earlier.
I feel like that was also the episode where Bishamon was like, you know, because the curse was lifted, and he's like, well, I'm not a Darkstalker anymore, but blah, blah, blah. I think he literally said that. Like, you were designated a Darkstalker and you were no longer, because you're not cursed. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're fucking, look at you. You're a Darkstalker. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
I was still distracted by someone else saying, you're a sorcerer, Harry. I'm like, God damn it.
You're a sorcerer, Merlin. I mean, Harry. I mean, Jesus Christ. Come on. All right. We've talked over an hour. I actually, before we recorded this, I was joking I was going to cut us off in an hour because, you know, that's all this show deserves. We went a little bit over. Do you have any parting words for this shitty show before I wrap this up?
It was dark. Stalkers.
Oh my God. I got nothing. Good night, everybody. See you next time.